Brightwall and Zenwall can be installed on any basement wall. These panels are flexible and they're not going to be part of a proper finished basement system in the end. However, the Basement to Beautiful panels are going to be finished with a finished panel like our Total Basement Finishing Everlast pre-finished panel, or even an unfortunately drywall by the homeowner perhaps at times. So it's going to be a finished wall. And when it is a finished wall, it needs to be pretty straight and pretty level. Your ceiling grid is going to go against the top edge of the wall. And if the wall is wavy or not straight, then your ceiling tiles are not going to be all the same size as they go along that wall, and you're going to see that wave. Now you can make up for that a little bit on the ceiling with crown molding, which is 1.25 inches thick. But also the baseboard. The baseboard is going to be going along the bottom of that wall, and if the wall is crooked, then the baseboard is going to look wavy, and it's going to be pretty obvious with white baseboard against that flooring. It's going to be pretty obvious if that wall is crooked. So the Basement to Beautiful panels are for direct contact mounted directly to a foundation wall that is substantially plumb and straight. I mean, no wall is perfect, and you can make up for it by shimming some, but you've got to know that if the wall is bowed in significantly, it's not an application for the Basement to Beautiful panel. In that case, if somebody wanted to finish their basement, they can use the original Total Basement Finishing mounting system, which includes a U-channel on the floor and an L-channel on the ceiling away from the foundation wall. It makes a space, and then we can get our finished wall perfectly straight. But the Basement to Beautiful panels need to go on a pretty straight and plumb wall. So we'll check the how plumb this wall is, and it's good. To check the straightness of a wall, we'll use 3 scrap blocks of the Basement to Beautiful panel, and we'll wrap a string or a chalk line around the one block, and then we'll run it down to the other end of the wall, and we'll hold it on the surface of another block, and then we will take our B2B panel and we can see if our wall is straight. So here we're within 1/8 of an inch, so we're in pretty good shape. Okay. We're within 1/8 of an inch, and that can be shimmed, and that might be that just one of these blocks is on a high spot. Over here, we're 1/4 of an inch shy. So now our B2B panel will span some of these imperfections, and it certainly will span imperfections vertically because it has 2 steel studs in there that will, if the wall was bowed, it can bridge some of that. But we're pretty close here. Another way to check the wall to see if it's straight is to just snap a line on the floor, and that line will remain there while you're installing the panels to guide you, to let you know where you have to shim. Now in this particular job, we have WaterGuard installed. Now I happen to know that this WaterGuard was installed in new construction just as a preventative measure, not because this particular basement had leaked. But what I did was we have a notch in the bottom in the bottom of this scrap piece, so I'm going to put this up against the wall so that the WaterGuard doesn't hold it off. The notch is there, and I'll put a mark, and we'll do the same thing at the other end. Since the Basement to Beautiful panels fasten directly to the foundation wall, we're going to make sure that there's no big bumps in the foundation wall. Now, poured walls will have some flash or some a bump between the forms, maybe at the form ties, and so if there's any really high stuff, we need to knock it off. Now, the basement to beautiful panels are foam, and the foam is somewhat soft. So when we put it against the wall, it can make an indentation in the back of the wall, but there's a limit to that, so we want to make sure that there's no really big high spots in the wall and knock them off. The basement to beautiful panels can be installed in any basement, whether the basement is dry or whether it leaks water now. If a WaterGuard system is installed, like we have here, then a Z-channel will be installed at the bottom to make sure that any wall leakage, such as from a wall crack like this one, will run down behind the basement to beautiful panel, and it wouldn't be able to drip in front of the WaterGuard. This Z-flashing will ensure that all the water will go into the WaterGuard. Now, as of the date of this taping, our custom Z-channel is being manufactured right now, and we don't have it yet. And I also, again, happen to know that this basement is not a wet basement, but what we're going to do as a precaution over this wall crack is we're going to install a piece of vapor barrier and tuck it into the WaterGuard in case it leaks in the future. We don't have a problem. We obviously salvaged this piece of vapor barrier from somewhere else, but it's going to do the trick. And rather than caulking it, I have my adhesive foam right here, so I'm just going to use that. Typically, there'll be an 1.5 to 2 inch space between the bottom of the floor joist and the top of the wall because of the sill plate and the sill sealer and any shimming of the sill, of course. Now, we don't have to cut our basement to beautiful panels to go all the way to the bottom of the floor joist. What we're going to do is bring them to the top of the wall. When someone finishes the basement over the top of the basement to beautiful panels, and that may be you're going to need to put a drop ceiling in anyway. And a drop ceiling requires at least 4 inches of space between the grid and the ceiling joist to get the tiles up there to drop them into the grid anyway. So if we were to have our ceiling height 4 inches down from the bottom of the joist, we got plenty of room to mount our track onto the panels still. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure the height of this wall. Now, if you're using a Z-channel at the bottom to direct water into the WaterGuard, you've got to measure from the tray of the Z-channel to the top of the wall. But in this case, we are not using a Z-channel. We would if it was available, you understand. And we've got 90 inches. So we're going to cut our B2B panels 90 inches.